Hello, everyone. My name is Trudy Kaiser. I am with Life Made to Order Financial Phoenix, LLC. We're located in the Ahwatukee area off of 45th and Chandler. We've been in business for about 6 years, and we do business across the country. And today we are presenting and hosting a webinar with a very special guest. Her name is Rochelle Polton. And I'll let you say hi to her in a little bit. She's going to give us some fantastic information today. I just want to introduce her properly, though. She was recently on our radio show, and so it allowed us to get to know Rochelle a little bit more. And we are so excited to have you here today, Rochelle, to be able to teach us some more about debt settlement and that death thing that you talked about was pretty scary, and people need to be prepared for that. And then estate planning as well, which is super, super important. And then we're going to give you a little bit of information, Susan and I are, about, some life insurance, some living benefits, and some principles that you need to know to make really good money decisions. So Arizona Credit Law Group is a consumer rights law firm that assists people with credit repair, debt settlement, and bankruptcy since 2014. ACLG, for short, is located in Tempe, Arizona, and they help protect people throughout Arizona. Rochelle Polton is an attorney, and she's the owner of ACLG. We went straight to the top to get the owner here, right? And she has been practicing in consumer rights since 2012. Huge background. Rochelle has nearly 20 years of real estate experience and has used this background to help her clients navigate complex legal issues like dealing with HOAs, timeshares, and distressed real estate situations. Rochelle also believes in educating the public about credit and debt issues. Yay! Range from the truth about FICO scores, we may have to talk about that a little bit today, to student loan options and zombie debt. That's interesting. So I would like to introduce Miss Rochelle. I'm going to put you on spotlight video. And hi.
Hello.
Rochelle.
Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, no problem.
Super excited. The show was awesome, and this is such a great topic.
It is.
Estate planning.
Most people don't know this stuff, so I'm super excited to be able to share it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Cool. So shall I go ahead and get started?
Yeah, definitely. Let's do it.
All right, perfect. So no technical difficulties, right?
Let's not talk about that.
We're pros. We're pros. Boom. There we go.
There we go.
So estate planning and debt settlement. These two do kind of go hand in hand depending on what phase of life or post-life you're in. But yeah, we are a consumer rights law firm. We do legal services to help people improve debt, to improve their credit situations. And we usually do that through credit repair, debt settlement, and bankruptcy. Those are our primary methods for helping people solve their debt problems. And we've got some fun stats here. Since 2014, we've helped about 1,100 people improve their credit and become debt collection free. We've saved people this year just over $2 million in just our debt settlement services. And on average, we save people about 52%, and we help people on average raise their credit score about 140 points. So depending on where someone starts, kind of depends on where they end. So going from a 400 to a 700 obviously is a lot more than 142 points, but everyone's different. We also do estate planning. So we offer practical solutions for estate planning. And a big part of doing the estate planning, our philosophy is, well, we just helped you get out of a financial crisis. So we want to continue to set you up for success. And we can do that by proper financial planning now that there is more money. So we do that using powers of attorneys, wills, trusts, and then just simple asset planning and transfers, making sure that people are properly planning for whatever phase of life they're in or whatever phase that they're getting ready to transition into. But sometimes we get invited to the game a little late. And so we also help people with post-mortem debt. And post-mortem debt, also fondly referred to as death debt, are usually involve credit cards, medical bills, student loans, mortgages, things that just kind of linger after someone has passed, and we help families figure out options for resolving postmortem debt. And we do that using, obviously, asset protection. Protecting families is really important, and tax planning, real estate planning, and we also utilize a lot of debt settlement services to help people handle postmortem debt. So we are AZCLG, and you can find us online, azclg.com, and you can even email me at credithelp@azclg.com. So we kind of already went through all of my funness, but today we're going to cover who needs an estate plan, what's included in an estate plan, asset planning, and then, of course, death debts. So in my experience, fear is for sure the number one reason for not doing an estate plan. Most people think about an estate plan as, well, that's for people who make a whole lot of money, and that's just not true. Some people are afraid that if they start thinking about death, that somehow they'll die faster, or that it's jinxing it, and facing your own mortality can be really scary. But in life, death and taxes are a sure thing. So planning accordingly is really important, because those are two things you're not going to get away from. And, you know, not having a estate plan really hurts the people that are left behind. So who needs an estate plan? Everybody, in short. But practically anyone who's an adult needs an estate plan. Estate planning is just part of adulting. It's just one of those things that just has to be done. So for someone who's single, it's really important to kind of know what is going to happen to your stuff. What happens if you can't make healthcare decisions on your own, financial decisions on your own, if you end up in a car accident, and who's going to pay your rent? Like, that is all part of that estate planning process. So if you're solo and you're hanging out there, it's really important to kind of have a plan in place and let people know, you know, what you want to have happen to everything, including your fur babies. So, you know, planning for your pets too. You can't really forget about them either. And then, of course, married people, making sure that when you get married that you update your estate plan. That's a pretty big life event, and just planning accordingly, making sure that beneficiaries on your life insurance and retirement plans get updated. That's a critical life event, and it's really important to take a look at your estate plan or think about getting one done. And then, of course, people with families. If you've got kids, small kids that are minors, they need guardians in case something happens. And betting that you're never going to die, or that a life event, unexpected tragedy isn't going to happen, is not the best plan. So you can put a plan in place and, you know, set it and forget it for a while. And then, of course, this last group of people, we'll call them mature adults. They definitely need an estate plan. Life happens. Long-term care, figuring out, you know, what's going to happen post-retirement, what to do with your assets as you age is kind of really important, especially when you have lots of children, grandchildren, and your children are married and have exes and all that other fun stuff. So essentially, who needs an estate plan? Everybody, but everybody for different reasons. And estate plans are pretty unique things. It's unique to you and to your life, so there isn't a one-size-fits-all. So for most people, the bare minimum that you need are going to be number 1 and number 2 on this list, because number 1 includes powers of attorney. Power of attorneys are really important because it gives someone else the legal ability to handle things like your financial affairs, your health care, your mental health care, and of course, even your children. So if something happens to a parent in the proverbial car accident, you know, having a power of attorney on file where you can enroll a child in school, change their address, and have them move into a new location without having to go to court and experience a whole lot of emotional trauma is really important. So just kind of having the financial, the powers of attorney done is really, really important. And there are some key phrases that you hear about when you hear power of attorney. You hear durable, you hear springing, you hear alternates. And so we're just going to take away the fear right now. So a durable financial power of attorney, all of the financial power of attorneys, all of the power of attorneys should be durable. A durable just means that it is going to survive even if you become incapacitated. So let's say you're in a coma, or you're just non-responsive, or you're in surgery and someone needs to make some decisions for you because you've been in there for 12 hours. A durable power of attorney is what enables people to make those decisions, because if it's not durable and you're not around to confirm that this person has permission to make these plans for you, then you do not have a power of attorney. It kind of defeats the whole purpose of doing it. So it needs to be durable. A springing power of attorney is one that only becomes effective if you are incapacitated. A lot of attorneys look at these a little differently. I'm a big fan of them being effective immediately, because if you trust someone enough to make financial decisions for you, healthcare decisions for you, mental health care decisions for you and for your kids, it should be effective immediately. And if you can't trust them with that right now and today, maybe you should consider somebody else. Same thing with alternates. In any good estate plan, you want a primary and you want a backup, and you want a backup to your backup. So a lot of people want to put their parents on as their power of attorney, but the problem with that is once they're over 65, you run a risk of them predeceasing you, and it makes more sense to have them as a backup than as a primary. So sometimes people don't have significant others, but you've got friends. Sometimes friends are just the family you choose as adults. So making sure that you kind of know who you've got in your life who can, one, know what you want because you talk to them about it, but two, would be trustworthy and able to execute whatever you needed done is also critical. So one of the most classic examples you see is someone who has a roommate and, you know, they're in the hospital, but they need to pay rent. But they can't because, you know, they're injured or whatever. If you've got someone available who can just get a cashier's check from your bank and make it happen, it makes a big difference, because now you're not looking at evictions and that kind of problem. You can just solve a lot of things just by power of attorney. So as you can see, if you've got a power of attorney, you've got 90% of the battle done.
Right.
The next part is health and final disposition instructions. So with the most important document that most hospitals want you to have is a living will. And this is what tells your family and the medical facility what you want to have happen, you know, in the event something bad and tragic happens. So are you okay with being on having a do not resuscitate order, or do you want them to do everything possible to save your life? For a lot of people who have cancer diagnosis and they're terminal, sometimes you want just comfort care, but they won't do that for you unless you have specifically provided instructions for that. And if you can't make that decision, usually in a family situation where you're surrounded by loved ones without a living will, that's where people start to fight. They fight over healthcare decisions, over what mom, what grandma, what, you know, dad wanted. And it gets ugly in those hospital rooms. So having a living will is not really for you, it's for them. And it's to just give them a plan, because they're already in a high stress situation. It allows them to just follow the instructions. And
so I have a question.
Yes.
And so if someone has a power of attorney in place,
Mm-hmm.
and something like that happens, that let's say they're, oh my gosh, they've depleted during surgery, and we need to make a decision. If there is no living will in place, what happens then? Does whoever is the power of attorney gets to make that decision because they're the power of attorney? Or, I mean, for me, it's kind of confusing to me, and I just want to.
Yeah. So if there is a durable healthcare power of attorney that's, you know, springing or not springing, it doesn't matter in that scenario. They're the person who gets to make the decision.
Who gets to make that decision. Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes you'll have.
It doesn't matter if you have a living will at that point, but it would just be easier for them to make that decision if there was in place. Okay.
A living will expresses your wishes,
right?
It tells people what you want.
Okay.
When sometimes people don't agree with your decisions and they change the plan, but that's not what was written, and they can do that. But, you know, a living will just kind of lets everybody know what you want.
What they wanted. This is what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
Makes it a little easier.
Yeah.
And then, of course, final instructions, the big question. This is by far the hardest question, but the easiest question to answer at the same time. Like the final instructions, the critical question that has to be answered is, do you want to be buried or do you want to be cremated? And it's funny because so many people are split on this issue, even within families. And so if you don't tell anybody what you want, they will make a whole lot of assumptions based on that. And some people are really opposed to cremation, and some people are really opposed to being buried. And it's just important to just kind of go with your gut when you're making that decision. Which one do you feel comfortable with? And in the end, you're probably not really going to care that much. But for family planning, and especially when you've got children or parents, they're all going to have an opinion on this. And so that's why final disposition instructions are so important, is because it makes it easier for whoever ends up with your remains to kind of say, look, this is what they wanted. This has nothing to do with me. It just kind of puts the onus back on you to avoid fights. And that's really the essence of an estate plan, is to avoid conflict. We just want to make sure that people are, death is already hard enough. If you can take some of the stress away by just having a plan in place, do that. So the same thing with wills. A will is simply a legal document that distributes all of your assets at the end. So it just gives a list of everything that you've got, who it should go to. Who are your beneficiaries? Do you have that great niece in Oklahoma that you want to leave something to? Well, it should be in your will. Otherwise, people are going to forget about her. So it's really important to kind of like pick those sort of things out. And thankfully, that part of the estate planning process, it's a simple conversation. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It's not particularly scary. It's just sort of making decisions about what you want. And for some families, when you've got in-laws, like daughters-in-law and son-in-laws, you got to plan for what you want to do with your estate. Because if they get divorced, or your son predeceases his wife and then she inherits your estate, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Most people are usually like, no, I'm not okay with that. I wanted to go to my grandkids. And that's a really good reason to have an estate plan right there, is to just sort of answer some of those basic questions about what do you want. And most of the time people are afraid to do a will because they're afraid of probate. So let's talk about probate. Probate is merely the legal process of distributing your assets. So if you have a will and you have assets that need to be distributed to your beneficiaries, then you have to open probate, get letters of testamentary, and it takes about a year. There's no easy way around it. It just takes about a year. It costs money. It costs time. But most people don't need to go through probate. Most people just have a will just in case there's something that needs to be probated. That's like the greatest reason to have a will. And probate really just isn't that terrifying or that big of a deal. The reason why probate becomes a big deal is when planning wasn't really good. Like you disinherited someone by accident, you forgot to include a child, or you intentionally excluded a child. Those kinds of conflicts cause probate disputes. When you have a new wife that's way younger than her husband, and then the kids get disinherited, that is the quintessential example of a probate dispute. So it happens. So, just kind of like making sure proper planning is being done, powers of attorney are executed properly is a really big deal. And then trust.
Can I just interject? Yeah. Just to clarify? So what is the main difference between a living will and a will? So a living will is for when you're medically incapacitated, and then a will is for when you're actually dead. So if you have a living will but without a will, is there anything in the living will that could suffice as a will?
No. A living will is your end-of-life care directive.
Okay, got it.
It's
Perfect.
Deceptive to call it a living will, but that's what everybody calls it.
Because it is living will, because you're living still. So they should call it living will and death will. I don't know. But thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And then trusts. A lot of people want trusts. They want to put their real estate in trusts. They want to put cars in trusts. They want to do all this stuff with a trust. And it depends on what you're really doing, because a trust is a very specific legal box. It's complicated. And if you need one, you need one. And if you don't need one, don't get one, because it's usually just empty and not doing you any good anyway. The most common example that I see of trusts that are probably necessary are for people with adult children with disabilities. Those are special needs trusts where, you know, you're caring for them for their life, and they need medical treatment, medical equipment, medical care, and maybe a parent or a grandparent set it up for them. That's probably the most classic example of a good trust that should be considered. And then, of course, one for life insurance when there are blended families is another good option for handling the distribution of that asset. But usually people don't need a trust. We'll always do that analysis and let you know if we think it's a good idea, but there's always other options. But that requires more explanation on estate planning, on asset planning. So asset planning is just goes hand in hand with estate planning. Like, what happens to your stuff? And this is a list of like the most common things that people have. They have bank accounts, retirement accounts, sometimes a house, sometimes a car, personal property, and sometimes they own businesses. And so with bank accounts, you don't really need to deal with them in your will, because every bank account you can name a beneficiary, and you should name a beneficiary. A lot of people make the mistake of adding their beneficiary onto the account as like a co-signer or a owner of the account. Don't do that. They just need to be a beneficiary. And it's kind of crazy that banks don't have you fill that form out when you open the account. So the first thing we tell people is make a list of every place that you bank. And this is going to be super annoying, but I need you to go there and like change the beneficiary or create a beneficiary on all of your accounts. It's really important to do that. Just because if something unexpected happens and you pass, no one has access to your bank account, not even with the financial power of attorney, because it's no longer effective because the person isn't alive anymore. It's done. So you need to be a beneficiary, because now you just own the account outright and you can do whatever needs to be done, because, you know, the beneficiary is the owner. So just make sure that that's a smooth transition. It's the easiest way to avoid probate, because when checks get issued from life insurance, if it's made out to that person's name directly, you'll end up having to probate the estate if you weren't a beneficiary on the account. And that's only to cash a check. So it's pretty difficult to navigate that problem. So bank accounts, name a beneficiary, save yourself and your family a whole lot of time and money. Same thing with retirement accounts. Naming a beneficiary, if you have beneficiary benefits, is really important. A lot of people don't know where their 401ks, IRAs, all of that fun stuff is located. So when you do an estate plan, it's a great time to kind of like rack your brain look at your resume and see every place you've ever worked and try to remember if they had an IRA or a 401k for you. Same thing with real estate. Real estate property in Arizona, you can do a beneficiary deed. So you don't need to really put it in a trust or an LLC. You can just do a beneficiary deed and title transfers upon your death. Not all states do that. So if you live in a different state, a beneficiary deed may not be an option. But right now in Arizona, that is a $12 solution. So if you can do that, do that. And businesses require more planning. That is really where life insurance comes into play, making sure that you can sell a business or continue to manage it. Your family can, depending on the type of business, but more on that in a second. And then, of course, personal property. That includes vehicles. Vehicles can be transferred using the DMV. You don't need to probate that. Same thing with most stuff, like if you've got a giant guitar collection, you should probably address that in your will. Any collectibles, that kind of thing. Tangible personal property is usually something that you want to plan for individually, or have your heirs round robin picking stuff so there's no fighting. if you have specific questions on that, you can always ask me. But the biggest issue, part of an estate is always going to be life insurance. Who needs life insurance? Pretty much the same people who need an estate plan. Like if you're an adult, life insurance is simply just part of adulting. And coincidentally, whenever you're looking to update your estate plan is about the same time you should look at updating your life insurance. So if you're single and you become married, it's time to take a look and see if you need more life insurance or a different type of life insurance. When you have kids, you're definitely going to need more life insurance. And then as you retire and, you know, downsize your lifestyle, definitely time to take a look at your expenses and your life insurance and your estate plan again and see what's changed. So life insurance in the context of estate planning is really important. A lot of people don't realize that when you're married and you don't have kids, yeah, life is great, but if something happens, someone's left with the mortgage, someone's left with all of the living expenses and half of the household income or less. And life insurance is just a good way to protect the people that you love from financial ruin and hardship and heartache. And the same thing with kids. You've got kids, you've got mortgage payments, you've got car payments, you've got tuition, just all of it, making sure that they're protected and you're not one of those unfortunate families with the car wash on the corner trying to pay for a funeral. That is just heartbreaking, and you can solve that problem pretty cheaply just through getting life insurance. So I'm a big fan of life insurance, a big proponent of it. I'm really happy that we're doing this presentation today because I think a lot of people don't realize how critical it is on a day-to-day basis because there's a lot of bad information on the internet. But one of the things that we deal with when we're a little late to the party is death debt. So when people die, sometimes they leave behind collection accounts, charge-offs, credit cards, judgments, tax liens. Student loans is probably the biggest one. Vehicle repossessions, evictions, timeshares, those don't go away. Like, you got to deal with those. And anything else you can think of, like medical, is also another big one. And there's ways to handle it. And we utilize debt settlement for helping people navigate their loved one's final debt. You know, figuring out what the solutions are, what the options are. And when there's life insurance monies involved that can be distributed to pay some creditors, it always makes life a lot easier too. Otherwise, you're looking at just more complicated options for dealing with this kind of debt. Like probating the estate and giving creditors years to file claims, and it's just a whole big deal. And if you can avoid that using an alternative method like this, that's ideal, because our system, we can usually solve the problem within about 3 months, whereas if you go through probate and try to do it that way, you're looking at 3 to 4 years. So this is just a faster, more comprehensive and cost-effective method of handling those types of issues. So depending on the company and the creditor, we can save someone quite a bit of money. So before you just start issuing checks to creditors, seek legal advice about that. It's really important that you don't just write a check from someone's account to pay off a medical bill. Things just change when your life status goes from current to deceased. So it's really important to just get some good legal advice on that. And then just for you, for this month, we're offering a free consult and a 10% discount if you go to our website and book, and the code is EP4Life, and because that's what we're all about. So yeah, but that's pretty much it through the end of August, and then we'll give you a 10% discount on estate plans. All of our legal services we do on a flat rate, and we offer payment plans so it can be affordable, because it's really important to get the help you need the right way.
Awesome.
Wow,
Great.
that was amazing. Thank you, Rochelle.
So
Thank you.
much good information in there. I was best. I took lots of notes. And the whole avoiding probate thing, that was awesome. I did not know that you could do beneficial. I'm going to go down to my bank.
Good. Tell your friends.
Well, and here's, I'll just let us all be in here. So, you know, the crazy thing is my husband and I went hiking a few months ago when it was cool outside. And we were coming down the mountain, and I just thought to myself, what happens if he dies? What do you want me to do with your business? What do you want? You know, and we actually sat down and had that conversation. And, you know, it's not a comfortable conversation to have, but it is necessary. And you gave some amazing information about how to make it simple today. And so I'm super excited that we did this. I even learned stuff. It was, I'm quite excited to share this. So we'll go into our little spiel now, and I will share the screen. And I want to let you guys know this is what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm going to introduce Ms. Susan Henriksen here in a second. So we're going to be talking about some living benefits, life insurance. I love that you ended it on life insurance, Rochelle, because it really does allow us to be able to walk right into and introduce to people a new type of life insurance that I don't know why you wouldn't want it as opposed to death insurance, and we'll explain the difference in that. And then we're going to go into and talk a little bit about compound interest, how that works for you and how that works against you. We're also going to talk about you versus Uncle Sam, and then we're going to tell you about some more of our educational events. And so first of all, I want to introduce Ms. Susan Henriksen. She's one of our amazing team members here at our agency here in Phoenix, Arizona. She's in the Chandler area, and we love having her on our Life Made to Order financial team. And take it away, Susan.
Hello, everyone. I'm Susan Henriksen with Life Made to Order Financial Phoenix. We are a proud 5 Rings financial agency, and we do have the ability to work across the nation. We are very similar like a Merrill Lynch or an A.G. Edwards, and we do specialize in working with middle Americans. Our flagship product that we love sharing about is called Living Benefits. It is the new type of life insurance that you don't have to die to use. We're going to show you a short video to explain about this fantastic protection piece in your financial portfolio. Thank you so much and enjoy the video.
When Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone in 1876, he designed it to do one thing: make phone calls. Hello? These days, it seems we use our phones for everything but phone calls. Today's phones are our text messengers, calculators, books, planners, navigators, our cameras, music players, internet browsers, stock traders, even our flashlights. Phones evolved to include so many other useful features because we needed them to, that we still just call them phones. This same evolution by necessity has happened with other products over the years, and life insurance is no exception. When life insurance was invented way back in the 1600s, it was also designed to do one thing: to financially protect your loved ones when your life is over. And like phones, life insurance evolved because we needed it to. With modern advancements in medicine, suffering a critical illness like a heart attack, stroke, or cancer diagnosis no longer necessarily means death. In fact, 90% of people who suffer a heart attack these days survive that event. That's where the new, evolved kind of life insurance policy comes in, one that adds living benefits. Living benefits policies are essentially the smartphones of life insurance. They allow your life insurance policy to not just be a parting gift, but also provide the ability to accelerate the death benefit if you suffer a critical, chronic, or terminal illness. This ability can help save your financial life by unlocking a whole new list of ways to use your policy while you're still living. Hello! And oftentimes, it does all of this at the same price as the old kind of life insurance. Living benefits protect you, your loved ones, and your wallet, not only in case you die, but also in case you don't. 2 things always happen when you suffer a critical or chronic illness: your expenses go up and your income goes down. When your expenses get higher than your income, that's when debt begins to pile up. This is the exact trap that so many Americans are falling into every single day. In fact, 60% of all bankruptcies that occur in the U.S. are the direct result of a critical illness and the medical expenses that follow. With living benefits, the policyholder has the option to accelerate a portion of their death benefit to replace their income and help with those added expenses. These benefits are the difference between just surviving the illness and having a life afterwards. And the best part is, they come at no extra cost to the consumer. So what kind of life insurance is protecting your family? Your granddad's traditional death benefit only coverage?
I don't know if I'm getting it.
Or the new Evolved Life Insurance with built-in living benefits? If you're still using the rotary phone of life insurance, maybe it's time for an upgrade. Contact the person that shared this video with you to find out how you can add living benefits to your coverage.
I have to go to the next one. So I'll talk a little bit about that life insurance, and that is, life insurance technically should be called death insurance, the traditional type of life insurance. And once you understand and know about living benefits, you can very easily replace your current policies with the living benefits life insurance policy and be able to use that in case something happens. And we'll go into that more on our Money 101 workshops. So we'll get back into this so we can get out of here by 1 o'clock. And we'll start talking about compound interest and how that works for you and against you. So compound interest is really the ability of an asset to generate earnings, which are then reinvested in order to generate their own earnings. You know that guy, Albert Einstein, he said it's the 8th wonder of the world, and his estate still earns about $45 million a year due to compound interest. Elvis, remember when he died? Well, I do anyway. I remember when he died. My mom was heartbroken. His estate still earns between $85 and $90 million a year from compounding. So how do we figure out how compound interest works? It doesn't have to be a complicated thing. There is a little rule called the rule of 72. And what you do is you divide the interest rate that you're earning into 72, and that will equal the number of years for the investment to double. So let's just do a little math. So if we took, let's say we're earning 1%, and we divide that by 72, that means that it would take 72 years for our money to double. How many 72-year periods do we have? We're hoping for one, right? I am anyway. So I tell you a little story about the 29-year-old triplets. Their uncle died and left them some money, $5,000 each. And they had a stipulation, like they had that trust going on, and there was a stipulation in that trust that said, you can only invest the money in one place. You can't add to it or take away from it until you're 65. And so that was why they got it. So the first triplet went probably to the bank. She went to the bank, and we're going to be very generous to the banker. So we're going to divide the interest rate into 72 to get the number of years. And so she went to the bank, and the banker gave her 4%. That means that her money would double every 18 years. So by the time she's 29, she had $5,000. She put it in the bank, and by the time she's 47, she has $10,000. And by the time she's 65, voila, she magically has $20,000 based on the power of compound interest. Pretty cool. And notice I didn't do, she went from 5,000 to 20,000, and we didn't do 20%. I remember when I first saw this, I thought to myself, well, 4%, that's not very much. I mean, gosh, that's a little bit, but it does add up. And knowing the rule of 72 and knowing how you can make some decisions really does help you. So the next triplet came to one of our workshops, and she learned that she could get 8%. It's still possible to get 8%, which means her money would double every 9 years. So by the time she's 29, she has $5,000. She's 38, she has $10,000. By the time she's 47, she's matched her sister with $20,000. Now, the first time I saw this, I thought, well, if it doubles the interest rate, then it's going to double the money. She's going to have $40,000 in here. And boy, was I wrong. Because by the time she's 65, she has $80,000. Is that a big difference or a little difference? It's a pretty big difference. It's a huge difference. So, but you went into your job tomorrow and they said, I know we don't have jobs here, but if someone is listening and you went into your job tomorrow and they said, you know what, you've been doing a wonderful job, I'm going to give you a raise. Do you want a $20,000 a year or an $80,000 a year raise?
80, please.
80, please. Thank you. So the third triplet, she said, you know what, I know it's not available right now, but in the past it has been 12%, and I'm just curious as to see what it would do if we had 12%. And that means that her money is going to double every 6 years. So at 29 years old, she has $5,000, 35 $10,000, 41 $20,000, 47 $40,000, 53 $80,000. She still has 2 more times to double, which means she ends up with $320,000. Now notice we didn't jump from 4 to 25%. We just jumped from 4 to 8 to 12%. Small increments. It doesn't take a lot to grow your money. And I remember when I was first being taught about savings, that it was, I thought I had to save a ton of money in order to get where I wanted to be. But the truth is, you just really need to have small amounts of money consistently with a good interest rate and know how to figure out what that compound interest does for you. Those who know how to work compound interest, it will work for them, and those that don't will pay it. So if I could offer someone 18%, would you be interested? Rochelle, would you be interested if I offered you 18% compound interest? Wouldn't that be awesome?
All day.
All day long, every year. Thank you very much. Yes, I'll take it. So if we did that, let's do the numbers. So 18 goes into 72. The money's going to double every, 4 years, right? So that means by the time the person is 65 years old, if they started out with $5,000, by the time they're 65, it would be $2.5 million. Woohoo! That's awesome, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people think, well, God, I don't think 18% is available, but it is available. And usually women carry it in their purses, men carry it in their wallets, and it's called a credit card. And so if you don't understand how compound interest works, you will pay it, and you will pay big. And a lot of people that come to our workshop figure out that that's why I can't get ahead on my credit card, because I keep paying, but yet I don't see the balance go down. It's because of compound interest and how it works. So it does work against you. So let's talk about taxes. Rochelle said it earlier, in this world, nothing is certain but death and taxes. And kind of giggled when you said that, because I thought, well, it is the truth. Nothing is certain in this world but death and taxes. Benjamin Franklin said that. And time and taxes will erode even the greatest of fortunes. And just like Rochelle talked about, proper planning can mitigate any damage done, or before the damage is done would be even better. So most millionaires, and the difference between millionaires and middle Americans or poor people, millionaires seek out tax advantage strategies that allow you to keep more of your money until you actually use it, so you can continue to grow and compound using that compound interest. So some strategies will actually allow you to receive money in retirement tax-free, much like a Roth IRA. And we're going to talk about that right now. So if I went to a millionaire and I said, I am going to give you $1, I'm going to make you a deal. I'm going to give you $1, and here's the difference between a tax deferred and a taxable account. So if I gave them $1 and I doubled it every year for the next 20 years, how much do you think would be in this account? So one turns to $2, the second year it turns to $4, third year $8, and so on and so forth. There would be $1,048,576 in this account. For 20 years, that's pretty cool, right? Just starting out with, who has $1 to get started today? Anybody have $1? Some people say they have 5. Or here's $20. So there's a couple of things that I want to point out about this account. The first one is no taxes were taken out. The second one, no fees were taken out. And the third one, I want you to understand that this is for the power of showing you what it looks like to grow your money tax deferred. There is nothing that doubles your money every year. Some people like to say that Vegas does, but you don't want to spend your retirement money in Vegas, right? That's a joke. You can laugh. That's funny. That's supposed to be funny. Okay. So tax Taxed money, this is what I'm going to go to, and I'm going to offer a middle American the same exact deal. Let's say they're in a 28% tax bracket. Where are they going to go to save their money? Probably the bank, and the bank taxes the money every single year. So the first year, you're going to earn $1, so you have $2, but you don't really have $2 because Uncle Sam has his hand out and he wants his 28 cents. So you have $1.72. So the second year, that would double to $3.44. And if it taxes down, it would tax down to $2.96. Then the third year, it doubles to $5.92 and it taxes down to $5.09. Do you see what I'm doing here? So if you continue to do that over 20 years, this account would only have $51,346.20. Isn't that incredible? Mm-hmm. When the first time I saw this, probably one of the most powerful things that we educate people about is the difference in the power of saving your money in a tax-deferred account. And people say, well, Trudy, what about this $1 million over here? Aren't I going to have to pay taxes on that? And yes, you are. And let's just say that it's 50%. Let's just go wild and crazy and say that your taxes are going to be 50%. You would still have $524,000, which is 10 times the amount if you saved it in a bank or in a CD or in a taxable account. So it's super, super important that you find tax advantage strategies, and we can help you do that as well. So the next thing that I want to talk to you about is the 3 tax buckets. I spend a lot of time talking about taxes because there's a lot of things that people don't understand about 401ks, how they work. I can't tell you how many times I've sat down with clients and they've said, I can't, you know, they're in their 70s and they're being made to take some of their money from their 401ks and their taxable accounts because Uncle Sam wants his money, and he's always going to want his money. And so you need to understand how these accounts work before finding out what you want to invest in. So the first bucket is a taxable bucket, and that includes your income. So that's your W-2 if you're self-employed, if you have commission, CDs, real estate, 1099s. If you own stocks and you earn money in the stock market, you're going to be taxed on that money. It's all taxable, just like that 28% tax bracket we talked about. The next bucket is a tax deferred bucket. And those are your 401ks, 403bs, 457s, SEPs, IRAs, 529Cs. I like to call it the alphabet soup of the tax environment. And so let's say that you earn $100,000 every year. This is how these accounts work. And you're going to put $10,000 into your 401k. Let's just use 401k, for example. It's going to grow. They're going to take $10,000 away from your earned income, which equals $90,000, and that's what you're going to pay taxes on. So you're going to be able to save money on taxes right now. Your money is going to grow, tax deferred. So all that time, every single year, you're not going to be able to pay taxes on it. And when it's time to take your money out, you will be taxed as ordinary income on withdrawal. So that means when you have your $1 million, you don't really have $1 million. You have whatever tax bracket you're in at the time, which in the past, the whole idea for these was that you were going to be in a smaller income tax bracket when you got older. But that necessarily isn't the case nowadays. It's kind of up in the air what kind of tax bracket you're going to have or be in at that point. So that's how those work. So tax-free bucket, I love this bucket. This is my favorite bucket. And it's the bucket that we specialize in at LMTO Financial. And there are a couple of accounts that are in here. So there is a Roth IRA. So Senator Roth came along and he said, who are these? These 401k plans are pretty good, but for who? The government, right? They can do a lot of planning, and they know that they're going to get future money from that, and they can, be able to cook the books a little bit because they definitely don't keep their books like we do. And then, so this is how this works, a tax-free account. If you earn $100,000 and you're going to put $10,000 into the account, which a Roth IRA has a little bit of restrictions on that. let's just say it's $10,000. You're going to grow the money tax-free. You're going to pay taxes on $100,000. And when it comes out is zero federal tax for qualified distributions. That means that you're really going to have $1 million if you save $1 million in this account. There is other accounts that allow you to do this. And so a Roth gives you a little bit of some restrictions. So if you're 59 and a half, you have to wait till you're 59 and a half to take the money out. You have to, you can only contribute a certain amount every year. And if you earn too much money, you're not allowed to contribute to this at all. And if you take it out beforehand, you will be penalized. So we have a tax-free retirement, that's the TFR, and smart baby plans that allow you to be able to do this same exact thing, put the money in post-tax and pull it out tax-free without any of those restrictions. So as long as it's built correctly for what you want to get out of it, you will be able to put money in post-tax, tax-free, then take it out tax-free as well. It grows tax-free, tax-deferred, and comes out tax-free. So they're really cool programs, and we talk about more of the workings of those in our workshops as well. So how to become financially secure. We've talked about a lot of stuff today. Rochelle went over some amazing things. So before you die, these are some things that maybe you might want to think about. You need to make a decent living to keep up with inflation. It's kind of common sense, but there's a lot of people out there that spend more than they earn. And really, that's the bottom line. We just have to be self-disciplined. $5 a day can go a long way. If you can save $5 a day for 40 years, that'll give you a decent interest rate. You'll have close to $1 million in a retirement account. Pretty amazing. You need to invest the money that you don't spend so it can work as hard for you as you do for it. And you need to utilize compound interest to your advantage. You need to insure yourself and the wealth that you built with life insurance so that the disaster does not take it away. Most people, what is the most important thing in people's lives? It's your health. If you get sick, or I know probably many of us out there have been sick or know someone that has had cancer, heart attack, stroke. It just goes on and on. Most people don't die. They live through their unforeseen illnesses, and then they become very, very poor. They live in poverty for the rest of their life because they had to cash out all their wealth in order to pay for their unforeseen illnesses. So protect your wealth. You need to implement some strategies used by wealthy people for years, and that is tax avoidance. And you need to integrate the recommendations and services of a trusted team of advisors, like Rochelle, like Susan, like myself. Trusted team of advisors who knows what the heck they're talking about and will give you some honest answers and educate you how to make decisions for yourself and empower you to make those decisions. I know most people walk out of advisor's office thinking, God, did I do the right thing? Did I do the right thing? And if you have to question it, it's probably not the right advisor for you. So you can learn more at Money 101. You can learn the 3 enemies to building wealth, which is inflation, debt, and taxes. You can also learn the 3 strategies for building wealth, which is the power of $5 a day, more information on compound interest, and some tax avoidance strategies as well. We would like to share upcoming events with you for the month of August. We do have a couple of Wine, Women, and Wealth. Those events are for women only. Sorry, guys. The next one is August 14th at 5:45 p.m. at BLD in Chandler. That is the second Wednesday of every month. So if you are watching this recording and it's, I don't know, September, October, and we always have this event on the second Wednesday of every month. We have a special event coming up. This one is, we just booked this. We're super excited about it. It's going to be at Lone Tree Golf Club. And we have room for 75 women. We're going to have 5 table sponsors. Union Bank is going to, or Union Home Mortgage is going to be there. I think Cabby is going to be there. There's going to be amazing women there. Lone Tree is hosting this event, and we are super excited. There'll be a different teaching about Wine, Women, and Wealth that night, but it still will be fun. Please RSVP to Susan And you can kind of take a screenshot of that, or you can email us at radio@lntophoenixevents.com. And then our upcoming Money 101 class is August 26th. If you would like to RSVP to that, or if this is another month and you're watching this as a recording, we try to have this class the 4th Monday of every month, same time, 6:15 to 8 p.m. at GLD Chandler, 4th Monday of every month. And if you can't make it then, we do have an on-demand, and this class is available for viewing anytime. Just let us know if you'd like an invite. You can let Susan know, text her, or email her, or call her, and she can set you up there. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really want you to avoid this scenario. That is, if I'm retiring on Friday and I haven't saved a dime, here's your chance to become a legend. Please, please don't come to us with this. Please. We might do something for you, but if you haven't saved a dime, there's really not much we can do for you. So with that being said, we did very well. Rochelle, I want to thank you for coming on. I can't unmute you, so I really learned a lot of things today. I was super excited to have you on. I hope that our audience did too. We will be sending out this recording to all of our peeps, and hopefully you can do that to the same for yours.
Oh, wow.
It was a great webinar, and I hope you ladies have a wonderful rest of your day.
Rochelle, thank you
Likewise.
so much. It was very enlightening, and I do appreciate all that information. I took copious notes.
Awesome. You guys rock. Awesome.
We'll
Thank
see
you so much.
Thank you.